A brief note before we get into this week's story. Explicit content is discussed that may be unsuitable or disturbing for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. In several countries, and still even here in the U.S., girls from as young as a week old to 18 years of age and older undergo a gruesome cultural ritual known as female circumcision, or female genital mutilation, FGM for short. This is when a practitioner surgically removes the girl's labia and clitoris, often without anesthesia. In some extreme cases, the vagina is partially sewn up. Common side effects often include chronic, severe pain, urinary tract infections, painful intercourse, and in rare cases, death.
In my country, at the time we started, 78% of women had been subjected to female genital mutilation. And globally, 200 million women and girls have been subjected to FGM. And then you have more than 600 million girls that are alive today that were forced to get married before they were 18.
That's Jaha Dukureh, founder of Safe Hands for Girls, an organization that helps girls who are either at risk of FGM or who've already experienced it. Dukureh is also a United Nations Woman Goodwill Ambassador, a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, and author of I Will Scream to the World. She was only 1 week old when she became a victim of FGM, and her vagina was sewn closed to ensure future chastity. At just 15 years old, Dukureh was sent to the U.S. as a child bride and forced to marry a man in his 40s. She was able to get divorced, but was soon remarried at age 17 and moved to a large Gambian community in Atlanta. There, she gave birth to a baby boy. But when she learned that she was pregnant again with a girl, Dukureh was devastated.
I never wanted a daughter, to be honest. I never wanted a daughter. Ever since I came into this world, as young as I could remember, not only was I molested myself, but, watching the violence that I saw in my own family with my mother and my father, and being that I was a child bride twice in my life, I didn't want to have a daughter that was going to face any of that. And especially if my daughter was anything like me, where she was curious, if she has my mind and my heart, and the world is not, it's not a safe place for people like us. And I didn't want her to come into a world that treated women and girls the way I was treated.
Once her daughter, Khadijah, was born, Dukureh's motherly instincts kicked in. Determined to protect her daughter from the same fate, she knew she had to speak up on a bigger platform.
I sort of started a support group in my living room in Atlanta where we would come together. It was more like a potluck. We would cook and come together and start talking about these issues. And then, I also started blogging about it online, where I started engaging people from across the United States. And then I realized that this was bigger than me.
From these conversations, she learned that Gambian parents in the U.S. were sending their daughters back to their home countries to undergo FGM surgeries.
And there were even doctors in the United States that were performing FGM on girls. So just because people move to the United States doesn't necessarily mean that they leave behind their cultural beliefs. And so, yes, not only, was FGM a threat to my Khadijah, but FGM is a threat to more than 500,000 girls in the United States. When the CDC conducted the study that we pushed for, that the Obama administration commissioned, it discovered that more than 500,000 girls in this country are at risk of going through FGM.
Dukureh points to an ongoing case of a doctor in Detroit who was arrested in 2017 for allegedly conspiring to conduct these illegal female circumcisions. This doctor was originally from Southeast Asia, where FGM is common practice in some regions.
It's not a Gambian or an African thing. This is a global, FGM is practiced in India, Malaysia, Indonesia, even Colombia, and places like Maldives. So people usually assume that FGM is an African problem, but it's not.
Male proponents of the ritual say that it ensures that their daughters will remain virgins until marriage and that their wives will remain faithful. What may come as a surprise to Western listeners is that proponents of FGM are not just men. Women who've undergone this procedure can also be strong supporters.
There's a lot of myths around FGM, especially in the societies that we come from, right? And I've heard a woman tell me before that when you're giving birth, if the head of the baby touches the clitoris, it automatically kills the baby, which is not true. We know that that's not true. And but these women actually believe that. And they believe that a woman that is uncircumcised or uncut cannot deliver a baby. And many women in the United States don't even know what FGM is. But it shows you how deep rooted these practices are.
Dukureh returned to her homeland in Africa to advocate against child marriage and FGM. In her travels, she visited small villages where 100% of the girls and women had been cut. To put an end to the cycle, she formed partnerships with local law enforcement and spoke directly with officers about the dangers of these practices. She also teamed up with the Gambian Ministries of Health and Education to help spread awareness and dispel myths associated with foregoing the procedure. In 2015, the Gambian government also passed the Women's Amendment Act, which prohibits both FGM and child marriage and imposes penalties on practitioners. While this has been a key step forward, Dukureh says there's still a lot of work to be done. Many Muslims believe that FGM is a sacred right, even though there is no mention of it in religious texts.
You have some of the most powerful religious leaders that are fighting me every single day, that are calling for me to die, that are asking people to boycott my businesses, that are asking people to boycott everything that I'm doing. I mean, in 2024, all year, we spent it fighting within our parliament, which is called our National Assembly, where they brought a case against this law and saying that it's unconstitutional and they want the law to be repealed. And hundreds and thousands of people came out in the street saying that the law that I specifically push for impedes on their cultural and religious values. And because of that, they want the government to reverse the law.
As a result of her work, incidents of FGM on girls under the age of 10 have fallen by 30% in the Republic of Gambia. Her own baby sister bled to death as a result of this procedure. Dukureh wants to see it eradicated worldwide.
My goal is to ensure that women have the financial security to make the decisions that they want to make for themselves and their children. So for me, it's all about autonomy, it's all about independence, it's all about liberation.
Dukureh announced last year that she was planning to retire from FGM advocacy and let others take up the battle. But after a religious group publicly vowed to reverse the law she worked so hard to establish, she has since retracted her statement and is back in the arena.
A part of me knows that regardless of how much I say I want to give up, I cannot give up. Because giving up is almost like giving up on that dream that I have for Khadija, and I can't do that.
Jaha Dukureh's book, I Will Scream to the World, is available online now and in select bookstores. To find out more about our guests this week, visit viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written and produced by Polly Hansen. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson.